So what I want to talk about this evening is about visualization. So we do data visualization work. We're kind of a design shop that works with data and works with code kind of as a material. And one of the things that, one of the tendencies when thinking about information visualization and how you work with data is that visualization is somehow about how you present data. We talk about it's expository, it's presentation, it's not exploration, it's about how you kind of pretty things up at the end of a process. And fundamentally it's not, that it's visualization gets all of its power from how you interact with and how you navigate through different kinds of data. And so what I would like to do is show a couple of examples just to kind of get, give you some thoughts about how this plays out. This first one, this is looking at, the Fortune 500. So going back to 1955, Fortune magazine has picked 500 top companies within the US and ranked them 1 through 500. This is kind of an interesting data set because, running back several years, I grew curious about how, the rise and fall of companies could actually be seen within this data set. So here we have all of those companies with their names written very, very tiny, going 1 to 500 top to bottom, and then columns for each year. And to start off, I just want to see that rise and fall. So by clicking, I can see where, how this company has, moved through this data set, how their ranking has changed. And what this does is, we'll often start with a sort of sketch like this to say, what's actually in this data set? So this is 27,000 or so numbers. What's in the data? What's actually there? And use a short software sketch to start explaining some of those ideas. So over at this right-hand side, you see, kind of what you'd expect as far as some of these larger firms. The rise of information technology with Hewlett-Packard. Berkshire Hathaway, I kind of love that. Here's Warren Buffett. I believe this is basically Warren Buffett refusing to get caught up in the first dot-com boom and buy dot-com stocks. And everyone says, oh, you're an idiot. And he's like, nope, I'm not. And over on the left-hand side of the diagram, we see basically this shift within the U.S. away from heavy industry, away from manufacturing. So here's Bethlehem Steel. And so, it's clear from even just a few seconds of playing with this that there's a trend within this data that's really about how, how different industries have risen and fallen. But having done this, so that's one aspect of the data, but here let's just organize them by revenue, or perhaps let's, more interesting, let's organize them by profit. So here's the zero line for profit. Here are some companies who, AIG, you may have heard of, was having a little bit of trouble. And some of these others, sort of as outliers that you can pick up very quickly. So here within the span of about 45 seconds, we've actually gone through this, in total about 90,000 data points, and very quickly started to get a sense of what's actually in there. Another way that we often are looking at data is how to get people to interact with it and how to start getting people playing with it. We were approached by the Knight Foundation to do a kind of data toy. So they had done some results about mapping out the civic tech space, and so how different companies were connected to each other, and how different ways that you could group that space and see where the funding was actually going. So as is often typical, we started with a spreadsheet that looks something like this. This goes on for many fascinating rows. And then the final piece is this. So what they want to do is they have this report. It's delivered as a PDF, but we also want to have a way of actually exploring some of this data for people just to be able to sit down and start getting a sense of what Knight's take is on this data. So they have two larger categories: open government versus community action. Blue represents private funding. Pink is this grant funding. We can move inside of one of those to one of those themes into this clusters designation. And we see a handful of clusters around that. And then once we're inside of that, we can see down at this organization level. And so, just very simply having a way of getting people inside of this data. It's not designed to do hardcore analysis. It's really about how do you engage people with this report that they've put together. How do you get them thinking about what's actually within this data set, but also providing ways of navigating into and out of it. So here we're back at the themes level. into the clusters and into even all of the organizations at once. In another more elaborate case, we were contracted by Thomson Reuters that they came to us with interest in developing a project that was about the transition of power in China, but also explaining how China's power structure actually works. And so the end result was this iPad application called Connected China. It's all built with HTML5 and JavaScript. Here what we're seeing is the social view. So this is essentially the social network of thousands of leaders within China and how they're connected to one another. So Xi Jinping's network there. Within this view, we see the hierarchical relationships, so institutional power, so technically on paper, the way that these people are actually connected to each other. And what we try and do with the app is basically allow you to go between this, sort of softer version of the, what one's social network looks like versus the, much more directed, this is the way things actually are supposed to be actually working. There's also some additional media about, trying to set up some background and featured stories and some investigative reporting and things like that. But even with a project like this that we're doing, or especially with a project like this, we're doing a great deal of work in trying to go from just that raw data, so in this case, we've got tens of thousands of entities, 30,000 relationships, 1.5 million words, and it can never feel like that for the actual users. And so how do we go from a really very, very messy network? So this is that social network. This was a first study that we did, just looking at can we get from one person to the next and how many steps does it actually take? And so we built this interactive piece. Too much visualization kind of stops with this version, that it's, you kind of put this up and say, like it's, wow, it's very complicated, and folks are, yeah, I know it's complicated. My data is very, important and intense. But instead, what we actually want to do is, have it be something that is really digestible and directly usable by folks. And so, based on that study, this was the next round of design and kind of how to put that together, and then finally, the social network that actually wound up in the final version, looking at this, first and second degree of connection. So this is available free. It's online. It's just at connectedchina.reuters.com. I encourage you to check it out. A lot more that I can cover in just a short segment here. And then most importantly, we'll finish with Rocky. So the 5 Rocky movies, one of the people in our studio, James Grady, was curious about looking at the structure of Rocky movies. And basically, they're all kind of somewhat formulaic, and can you actually take all of them and line them up and sort of do this version where the same thing, the same montage, the same build in the story and then in the narrative is happening all along the way, and can we actually arrange those frames? And so we started out with this version of just all of the frames run out to see if they actually matched up. Unfortunately, that didn't actually pan out. And so where we wound up in the end was actually, here's all of the movies, but then marking them off based on the different content within different parts of the movie. So we can, on one level, we can simply scrub through and line up different sections, or we can actually reduce the movies to just one particular set. So here's just all of the training. So Rocky 1 has a great deal of training. I can just scrub through and watch that. Or most importantly, all of the montage scenes. And so if I just want to watch nothing but montage, this is my trick here. So, and fundamentally, James is playing with this idea of, so this was partly inspired by Morphology of the Folktale by Vladimir Propp, and it's about how to, it's very high-minded, Rocky, but how to, really kind of break these things down. But in the end, the internet delivered as far, finally some scientific proof of why Rocky IV is the best, shortest runtime, 3 montages. So thank you. That's we serve at the pleasure of the internet. So thanks very much.